Speaking of wide receivers, let's get to them now.
Yeah, a lot on the bye, just like the quarterbacks. This is worse, though. Jamar Chase, the best wide receiver in fantasy football. You don't have him this week. T. Higgins, when he's been healthy, he's been tremendous. Garrett Wilson, also on a bye. Drake London and Darnell Mooney. Brian Thomas Jr., Devontae Adams, Khalil Shakir, and Amari Cooper. There's going to be a lot of people that need wide receiver help on the waivers, Matthew, and we're going to start with Jerry Jeudy's 49% available. Just check. I mean, after that massive week, he's probably not out there in your league. But Elijah Moore, 92% available. It's a short week against the Steelers. But the target share for Elijah Moore has been much different with Jameis under center.
22% target share with famous Jameis under center since week 4, by the way. Steelers allow the 8th most yards per game to the slot. Shout out to Denny Carter because, yes, maybe while we're now talking about Elijah Moore, last week Denny Carter explained the mainstream media was not telling you about Elijah Moore. So he talked about Elijah Moore on Friday, and shout out, obviously, huge game for Moore. So credit to our friend Denny Carter.
You want to show the sound?
Do we have sound?
Nope.
I think we did. Okay, good. I didn't think we did.
No.
I sort of paid attention at the
I was hoping you were going to, though, just to make Pete, be in a tough spot again. It's a good running theme.
I wasn't going to do that to backup producer Pete. Backup producer Pete's had a tough week.
Yeah.
A tough week because he lost in the League of NBA Assholes. Did he lose in our football league? I don't remember.
You're just presuming a loss.
Well, he beat Lawrence. He beat Lawrence, but that's not really. Who cares? Yeah, exactly.
Looking for the reference. There it is.
So whatever. Yeah. Anyway, it's been a disaster for Pete, and he's a Giants fan. So
that's
so we don't want to beat up on him too bad. But anyway, Elijah Moore is out there. Jerry Jeudy is available in 49% of leagues if there's a chance that he is. He's got a 23% target share with Winston. Elijah Moore, as I mentioned, 22% target share. Again, with the increased volume from Winston, like just everyone sort of eating. And Njoku and Club said, of course, as well, there for the high-flying Browns. So,
like you said, Matthew, they could be chasing a lot of points in these brutal matchups where you could still get junk time production from these wide receivers. Jay, another wide receiver on our list, Christian Watson. He's 55% available for those interested in the Christian Watson experience, which is either 150 yards or 7.
I hate this Packers wide receiver room. They're all good, but I just hate kind of sifting through it. We're going into week 12. There's not a Packers wide receiver who has 50 targets on the season.
No, it drives you nuts.
It's Jaden Reed is number 1. I thought Jaden Reed might be a top 10 wide receiver this season with his talent, and he's just been swallowed up by this Packers morass. Christian Watson last week was
Dontavian Wicks can't even get on the field consistently, and he's a good wide receiver.
Dontavian Wicks is going to have 120 yards or none.
Yeah.
Christian Watson. That 4 for 150 game against the Bears. Here's the thing. He had 4 targets. He turned them into 150 yards. So Christian Watson is kind of the other AFC North version of Jameson Williams in a way where you're really just counting on these bombs.
Premium MBS.
The only thing you can hang your hat on is that he's had 3 straight games with at least a 19% target share. He's had 10 deep targets in those 3 games. So they're gonna take 2 or 3 deep shots a game to Christian Watson. You're just hoping at least one of them pays off like it did last week where he dove, he fell, there was no one around him. He's like, oh, and he gets up and just starts running, which is what happened as well. The other thing is that 2 of the last 3 games he's had at least 1 end zone target. So they at least try to take 1 shot for him as well. Next on the list here for me is my guy, Quentin Johnston,
friend of the show.
I'll tell you why he's my guy, because going in,
last year?
I'll tell you, he wasn't my guy last year, but he's now my guy, because I'll tell you what happened is that heading into Sunday Night Football, I'm losing to Audio Adam. And Audio Adam's just had the worst run in our league, and he's up by 11.8 points. All right, I had a couple of bad injuries. It was a tough week for me. No, seriously. And Adam had a couple of big.
Still calling back to Rasheed Rice being hurt.
No. I'm just saying on my team. No, I have whatever. No, I'm just saying on my team I had some bad injuries, right? And whatever. Muted game from Derrick Henry. What are you gonna do? Bad game from Jaden Daniels. Whatever. My team just didn't show up. Point is, I'm down 11. I'm down 11.8 to Adam heading into Sunday Night Football. I've got Quentin Johnston. He's got Mike Gesicki. So I need Quentin Johnston to outscore Mike Gesicki by 12 points.
Clash of the Titans.
I know. Well, this is why it's a league of assholes, because
it's a terrible experience.
Yeah. But Mike Gesicki gets a goose egg. Quentin Johnston shows up with 12 point whatever it was, and I squeaked by Audio Adam for a victory. Again, similar to Lewis Gill. It doesn't matter. It's a W in the. It doesn't matter if it's one or not. And Quentin Johnston continues to get touchdowns. He's had 6 completed games over his last 6. He's scored in 5 of them, right? He had a 24% target share last week. He didn't connect on a lot of them. They played good defense on him, but it's a nice match with the Ravens as Baltimore has allowed the most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers this season. They're tied for the most touchdowns allowed. Again, Quentin Johnston has scored in 5 of his last 6 completed games. So, yeah, give me some QJ this week on Bymageddon.
Xavier Legette also makes our list here.
He's kind of Louis Hillian. Quentin Johnston. I kept on saying, you need to think of Quentin Johnston like a tight end. He's like a tight end who plays wide receiver. He's very touchdown dependent. Otherwise, he's not going to deliver value.
I agree.
He's
he scores touchdowns.
But he does score touchdowns.
A lot.
He does score touchdowns. There's not a ton of target competition, and Herbert's playing at a really high level.
Xavier Legette makes our list, guys. He's got the Chiefs, but he's 72% available here. We also have to mention Adam Thielen and Jalen Coker for all the cokeheads.
Oh, the cokeheads out there, absolutely.
Of course. Xavier Legette, Jay, he's got the target share.
Am I a coke daddy?
Yeah.
That's really pushing the limits.
I'm a cheer daddy and a leather daddy now. I'm just asking.
As
a hardcore member of the cokeheads, am I a coke daddy?
I think you're a leather daddy. You'll always be a leather daddy to me. You and Tobias Funke.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, Xavier Legette, Connor. So the thing with Xavier Legette, it's like a version of how a couple years ago you just have to have Juju Smith-Schuster because he's the number 1 wide receiver for Patrick Mahomes. Xavier Legette's like the kind of budget version of that, where he's the number 1 wide receiver on an NFL team for a quarterback who now looks competent in Bryce Young. Bryce Young, I think he has turned the corner in a way. He's turned the corner into Competentville after not residing there at all his previous existence. So I think Xavier Legette, he keeps on having these just blah nothing games, but I think you just have to trust that because he's a young player, evolving in the offense, Bryce looking better, that Xavier Legette, he's a worthwhile flyer.
I'd argue you want him now, too. Sure, it's not against the Chiefs, so that you might have to start him, but against the Bucs the following week, Matthew.
Chiefs' pass defense isn't great.
Against the Bucs, then at Philadelphia, home to Dallas. So 2 of the next 4 you definitely feel good about, and there may be some junk time scoring as well. Nice big target, good red zone target. You think that I am cautiously optimistic about this Panthers passing attack with a competent Bryce Young, Legette, Coker, Adam Thielen, Jatavian Sanders as well. Like suddenly a Chuba out of the backfield, suddenly you're like, okay, there's some. It's not world beaters, but it's also
production.
It's
in some format.
It's moving forward. It's moving forward. Another offense that is improving slowly, surely, is the Patriots. And how about Demario Douglas? We've talked about Pop Douglas a decent amount on this show, but in his 4 full games with Drake May, he's averaging 12.9 fantasy points per game. He's got a 23% target share. And over the last 4 weeks, he's got a matchup with the Dolphins this week. Over the last 4 weeks, Miami allows the 6th most receptions per game to the slot, which is obviously where Demario Douglas lines up the majority of the time. And so I think Legette and Demario Douglas are sort of even here. I think Legette probably has more upside because, first-round pick, pedigree, bigger-bodied guy, probably more scoring potential. But Demario Douglas has more of a floor. Just feels like it depends on sort of what you need this week, whether you're looking for, hey, I just want somebody that potentially could pop in a few weeks down the stretch, or am I looking for somebody like I need 12 points this week.
Right. Yeah, Jay, it kind of feels like this Patriots wide receiver group is the budget version of the Packers roulette wide receiver group where Booty might have a good week. Douglas is okay with the floor. You have Kendrick Bourne in there. We talk about Hunter Henry a lot. It's just hard to kind of figure out the distribution throughout all these guys.
It is a little difficult, but I think Pop Douglas is ultimately the guy that you want, and then I would take Keyshawn Booty second after.
Last 3 weeks, he's got a 98% route participation. Again, it hasn't turned into fantasy production just yet, but he's out there, he's running routes, and so it's clear that the coaching staff has confidence in him. It's coming. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.